This is Garlene with the Kitchen Sink Shop, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate another technique or stitch combination that is often used in lace knitting such as this, and it is a technique that results in a single decrease, and it is the slip one, knit one, and then passing the slip stitch over. Now when you slip a stitch, there are actually two different ways you can do it depending on what the pattern calls for. So you can either slip the stitch knitwise or slip the stitch purlwise, and I'm going to show you how those two look. So for this example, I'll show you first slipping the stitch knitwise. So to slip a stitch knitwise with your yarn in the back, we're going to slip this next stitch. You insert the tip of the right needle into the stitch as if you were going to knit it, but instead of wrapping the yarn around, you just simply slip it from the left hand needle onto the right hand needle as if you were going to knit it, but we haven't wrapped the yarn around. So then the next stitch we will knit, and I knit English style, so you may knit a little bit differently for me, and that's fine. So now we have on the right hand needle, we have the stitch that we just knit and the stitch that we slipped knitwise. And so to pass that slipped stitch over, you insert the tip of the left needle from the left hand side into the slipped stitch and just gently and loosely pass it over the stitch that we just knit. It's important not to tighten or pull because to keep the tension even and for the stitch, your work to look nicely, you want to make sure that it's nice and loose. Okay, now in this lace pattern, there's a little bit of in between. Now normally in this particular pattern, you wouldn't be slipping the stitches differently in the same row, but just to demonstrate, I will show you now how you would slip the stitch purlwise. So again, sometimes there are instructions in patterns that tell you specifically to have the yarn either in front or in back, but normally you would keep the yarn in the back of your work if you're on the knit side or the front side of your project. So to slip a stitch purlwise, what you do is you just take the tip of the right needle and then you insert it into the stitch on the left needle as if you were going to purl it. But again, instead of purling, we don't wrap the yarn around and we just simply slip the stitch onto the right hand needle. Then we're going to knit the next stitch, and passing the slipped stitch over is done the same way no matter how you slip the stitch. So we just insert the tip of the left needle into the stitch and very gently slip it over and then leave it nice and tight. And so this stitch technique, as I said, is used a lot in lace knitting, for example, in this dishcloth here. And you can see that the slip stitches creates a beautiful lace pattern that's simple and results in a decrease of one stitch.